Welcome to the Broncos Podcast. I am your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. If I'm sounding a little different, maybe a little far away, I'm in London at Airbnb here in London, sharing that with my Denver Post colleagues, Parker Gabriel and Aaron Ontiveros. It's been a fascinating trip, a lot of walking, not a lot of sightseeing, though I was able to take in the England-Wales friendly at Wembley Stadium. I'm not a huge soccer guy, but I wanted to experience it there. It was as cool as you would expect. A lot of great energy, fans into it. England squashed Wales 3-0 in case you're wondering, or maybe you had some money on the game. But we're over here in London after that huge victory against Philadelphia. The Broncos have put themselves in a position to go on a run. I don't know if you've looked up recently, folks. It's easier for you to get your news than for me because I'm 7 hours ahead of you. So it's midnight here in London. The Chiefs are aging, and the Chargers are hurting and ailing, and the Raiders stink because Geno Smith can't stop throwing interceptions. The AFC West is up for grabs, folks. The AFC West is up for grabs, and Sean Payton coached his ass off against the Eagles. He lived up to his $20 million paycheck. What does that mean for this team? Can they go on a run to make that Eagles game matter? And it's dangerous. The Jets, if they were at home, that's a trap game. I don't think it's a trap game here, and I will get into those reasons. But Jets are winless. Broncos coming off their biggest win since Super Bowl 50. Those two things don't exactly match up. What does it mean for Denver? What does it mean for Peyton? How are the players handling this trip to London, which included a long layover in Philadelphia on their way across the pond? We're going to get to all of that after the break. Have you been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us is personal. I was just texting with Darby tonight as I was at the soccer game. He's doing great. His congratulations to his son, Jet, who just got his MBA from CSU. Darby is the kind of guy that you become your friend with. You just get to know him. Most of his clients become his friends. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one paying checks to you. So what are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. It's 1-833-464-4288. That number again, 1-833-464-4288. Or go to the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos Pod. This is Troy Rank from the Denver Post. Thank you, Broncos country, from wherever you're joining me. I've seen a few of you out and about in central London. With practice, we're at Tottenham facility, the training center in North London. Haven't seen anyone out there. You'd have to have a reason to go out there. But I have seen some Broncos gear. I'll see, I'm sure, even more as we get to the weekend. I was talking to a friend of mine, Brian Smith, who's now a columnist here for a media outlet in London. He worked for several years in Houston, just an amazing writer, a columnist over there. And he believes it's going to be a huge Broncos crowd. Not Bills Mafia taking over Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but he just is like, why would you root for the Jets? And he's right. I mean, it's an easier flight to get over. It's, 3 hours shorter, if you will. The Jets are terrible, and they haven't been good forever. They have the longest playoff drought of any team in the league, and the Broncos are coming off a huge win over a team people in London would know because it's the Eagles and the Super Bowl champion. And you watch the Super Bowl in London, and it's a niche sport here, but they would watch the Super Bowl, so they're familiar with the Eagles. So when you say the Broncos beat the Eagles, we're going to see more orange there. So how do they make it matter? And it starts with Sean Payton. Sean Payton, again, was in his bag, as we know, against the Eagles. 3 scoring drives, down 14. Broncos are now 2-112 when trailing by 14 points or more in the 14 points in a fourth quarter of a road game. And for me, one call, one decision changed their season, and that was going for 2 with Troy Franklin. 7:43 left. You have a chance there to send a message to the Eagles that we didn't come here to get a participation ribbon. And you get it. You have a great flat route, just a wonderful play call, open. Bo Nix hits him, and the players loved it. Nix told me out here in London how much he appreciated the confidence Sean showed in him, and then they executed. Mike McGlinchey told me, hey, I was surprised, but I loved it. players love when the coach has that kind of confidence in him. And Sean Payton lived up to everything the Broncos had hoped when they signed him to that massive contract, when he signed a guy who's won a Super Bowl. And he is comfortable out here. He likes it. He played in London not long after college with the Leicester Panthers, a quarterback coach, before he began his coaching career in college and then later in professional football. So he's familiar with it. He's just he likes the Tottenham facility. He doesn't like the traffic to get there. They're staying in the middle of nowhere. And we're going to get to that in terms of handling success. But Payton, for me, this is why you pay him $20 million. This is what it looks like. You have the discipline. You have the willingness to show onions in a big moment and succeed at it. And so I asked Joe Lombardi about that. Like, how can you tell that this is a Sean Payton team, that it's developing? Because they had an attitude about this game, the Eagles. And this, to me, is why this is a turning point of the season and why it should resonate. But listen to Joe Lombardi. He's been coaching with Payton for the better part of 15 seasons in his NFL career. He knows him as well as anybody. He knows that Sean's default setting is volcanic. He runs hot. But listen to him talking about the confidence it showed to go for it, what they learned from the Cincinnati game, and then what it's like to work with Sean Payton. Here's offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi after practice on Thursday in London.
Okay, how would you describe him in terms of how his confidence is helping, like, this team turn the corner? Like, it seems like we're starting to see this as a Sean Payton team.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you?
I think if you ask me what Sean does the best, it's getting the right guys on the team. He talks about we spend as much time on the personality, the character of the players that we acquire as much as we do their football talent. We want guys that love football, that winning's important to, that this game's important to, that are willing to put in the work and have that mental toughness that, every season, I don't care how good it goes, you're going to have some times that are tough. And we do a lot of research to make sure that the players that we have that kind of character to withstand those times and keep working and keep being positive. So, certainly there's the way that you approach the team and what you say to them and how you practice in order to build that, but you have to start with a good foundation. And I think, what our front office does and what, Sean makes sure is important to us is getting the right guys in here that, that can take those, couple game losing streaks or, hey, we got some injuries and things aren't looking good. And, but we still have guys that, are all in every day.
Can you give him shit? Can you talk to him that way and have that relationship? Or?
Yeah.
So that
depending on his mood. But yeah.
I just wonder, because you've known him forever.
Yeah.
You coach with it.
No, he's something he says about that is important to him with players and coaches, and he has it, the ability to laugh at yourself, not take yourself too seriously, and he's got that ability.
Okay. We haven't seen that side on this side.
Yeah, I understand.
Welcome back to the Broncos Pod. I hope that gives you an idea, folks, of what it's like to work with Payton. Even he, after all these years, he's not walking on eggshells, but he's like, I can joke with it, depending on the mood. But that's Payton. He's hard to work for. I've said this on the pod, but when it all lines up, it works because he gets his guys in, they run his system, they take on his personality, they get that swagger, they get that confidence, and all of that is starting to come together now. Now, the hard part is, can he finish? He didn't in New Orleans after the one Super Bowl. There's some, and among his critics, to believe it's because he's strung too tight and that he wants to win his way, not the way to win a game, and his ego can get in the way. This is that, kind of an inflection point for him in his Broncos career as coach. Because if he were to win a Super Bowl here, even if he were to get a Super Bowl here, reach one, I think it would be his crowning achievement as a coach. You could argue certain. I take that back. He'd have to win it because winning one in New Orleans is. I'm going to take that back. It's such a huge deal given the previous failures of that franchise. But it would be a crowning achievement in a way that would get him to the Hall of Fame. And he would be doing it with a young quarterback. There's always going to be that, hey, his success to the Saints is attached directly to the hip with Drew Brees. And that's fair for both of them. But, if Sean were to do it with Nix, show he can win a different way, and in that sense, run the football a little more, trust your defense to create takeaways, that would be huge. That would be absolutely huge, and a crowning achievement for him. And I think they're on their way this season to doing something special. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but this has the look of a team that can win a playoff game. So how do you do that? How do you make it run? Who are some of the key players for this team that just got hot to stay hot? I'm going to talk to that after the break. Listen, life doesn't always work out the way we thought. You face curveballs, family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody. You need a lawyer who understands the human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. Ted's a graduate of Cal Berkeley Law. He brings 40 years of courtroom experience and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective, but first and foremost, a trial lawyer. He's tried cases across the country and the state. He's taught young lawyers the ins and outs of the courtroom for the National Institute of Trial Advocacy. Martindale-Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the country. Want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Ted can find a path out for you, and Ted will fight for your rights. His passion is putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case, but he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at theoshih, Theoshih, at AOL.com, or give him a call, 303-475-2981, 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Well, if you're fast forwarding, you shouldn't, but welcome back. This is Troy Ring from the Denver Post. This is my pod from London. I'm in the Airbnb. It's an interesting place. I finally figured out the outlets, the internet. So the first day and a half was a little greasy, I'm not going to lie. Trying to get to email, trying to see stuff on the phone, trying to file stories. I think we got it all ready to go. And of course, as it gets closer to the end, you feel more comfortable. But you know who's feeling comfortable? The Broncos. They're lazy boy. Feet up comfortable, because it's all starting to come together. All of that stuff Peyton talked about to national writers in the summer, with loving his quarterback, and this team, should think in terms of the Super Bowl, in terms of its goals. All of that's starting to come together, but you got to make a run. You got games coming up where you're going to be you're a huge favorite against the Jets, probably 7.5. I haven't looked lately. Giants. Terrible when you come back home. Obviously, it's tough to come back home and play without a bye, but they do. But Giants, Raiders, Texans, all these games coming up are so winnable, and you need to put those in the bank. And Sean Payton has shown the ability to beat bad teams over the last year with Carolina and Atlanta and the teams of the NFC South, the JV Chiefs at the end of the year. That's why I think they're comfortable here. But who's important? Well, you look to the leaders. You look to the guys, the core players who are kind of pulling this through. We've talked about it with Bowles. Now McGlinchey he was his first big signing with Ben Powers out, and whether that means Palczewski or Parrott plays at left guard, they're going to need more from Bowles now and need more from McGlinchey. You talk about a player who was critical to that Eagles win, and it's Courtland Sutton. The guy has 4 catches for 77 yards in the fourth quarter alone against Quinyon Mitchell, who had never given up more than 49 yards receiving in a game, and Sutton torched him. And I did a column earlier this week about no lifelong Bronco has ever had a career renaissance like Sutton. Bowles is a little different, and he's in this conversation of special stories. And you say, Craig Morton, what about him? Yeah, well, he came from New York. He wasn't a lifelong Bronco. He won, comeback player of the year in 1977. AFC MVP, I guess that was an award back then. And they led him to his first Super Bowl, so everyone knows Craig Morton, as they should. He wasn't a lifelong Bronco. And Bowles started out horribly, 17, 18, 19, and then turned his career around in 2020 when they'd already declined his fifth-year option. He ends up making second-team All-Pro during the COVID year and is now an anchor for this franchise with 2 big contracts since his rookie deal. Sutton is different because he dealt with, 11 quarterbacks before Bo Nix, I believe it was, if my math is right off the top of my head. An endless stream of head at what he's done. And his career is different because his second year, he's a Pro Bowler. and then he just basically falls off the map. He just starts getting hurt, starts becoming ineffective. I mean, for 3 years in a row, he's averaging like 50 catches, 525, 600 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a stretch there where he had 2 touchdowns in 26 games. And now, since Sean Payton arrived in 2023, Courtland Sutton has been a touchdown machine. I mean, the guy's averaging like 8 touchdowns. He's on pace for that number again, 9 or 10 this year, on pace for 88 receptions. And I've just never seen a guy go from one really good year, he pops, 3 years where he was injured and ineffective, and now at the back end of his career, as he's getting ready, he turned 30 this week. I think it's tomorrow, if it's the 10th. I've lost track of the days. So Friday he turns 30, and he's enjoying the most success in his career. And his consistency of that. There's a lot that goes into that. And that's why when you say, can this team make a run, it's because of players like J.K. Dobbins that bring an edge and a personality, and McGlinchey and Bowles and that line and the run blocking. And defensively, obviously, you could just put them all together, that unit, because they're one of the best in football. And their pass rush is just nasty. But it's guys like Courtland Sutton. So I asked Sutton about what has kind of triggered this career renaissance that has coincided with team success. So here's Courtland after practice earlier this week.
Since he arrived in the Broncos, your career has been just on a rocket ride up. Did you feel like eventually your hard work, your love of the game would be rewarded in this kind of way? Because it just wasn't showing up necessarily on Sunday. I know behind the scenes, teammates loved you, you're a captain, but it wasn't necessarily showing up. Did you sense that, hey, if I keep loving the game, I keep finishing play, that it would? And was it the marriage with Sean? Or what do you think has helped the way your career is just shooting straight up?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a level of consistency that plays into that, and then there's also a unwavered faith that God's promises, his plan is bigger than anything we understand. Everybody kept asking me after I signed the new contract. They were like, you could have got more, And I was like, it wasn't really about that. I believed in this, and we talked about this in training camp. I believe in this team. I think we have a great team. We have, just a overall, being able to have a quarterback like Bo, being able to have a coach like Coach Payton, an offense, and just a full offense that has confidence, belief, and faith in you. It lets you go out there and play free when you know that everybody believes in you, and you know that there isn't one person that's like, maybe he isn't the guy. It just allows you to be able to come to work every day with a sense of, y'all gonna get everything out of me because I know that y'all believe in me. And to be able to be a part of that, to be a part of an organization that the Penners are putting together, it's really cool to be able to see. When I first got here, the ownership was kind of wavering. There was a little up and down of what was going on between who's going to own the team, who wasn't going to own the team, whatever. And so there was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but to be able to be a part of an organization that is as first class as this, I think that it just all plays within itself, and I'm just grateful, and I'm continue to try to be the best version of myself. I know I say it all the time, but it's the truth though. Like each day, I'm just trying to be a better version of myself.
Some good perspective there. Courtland kind of admitting, like, hey, it's tough. He relied on his faith. And one thing I think it's important to note is he remained a good teammate in a couple of different instances. You could argue one of the reasons the Eagles lost to the Broncos up 17-3 is they were too concerned with feeding their whiny receiver, A.J. Brown, and maybe a lesser degree, Devontae Smith. And they're having 20-second drives. They're bringing the Broncos back into the game to create stats for receivers. And Sutton, to his credit, after the New Orleans game when he didn't have a catch last year, then he went on a run, and he didn't complain that night. There are a lot of receivers, the nature of that position, that would be fine with getting 8 catches for 100 yards and losing rather than 2 catches for 20 and winning. That's just the truth of it. Sutton, 0 catches last year at New Orleans, didn't say a peep, and then he went on a run the next 4 or 5 games. Totally changed the season. This year, 1 catch against the Colts in a game where they needed him. Didn't happen. And then these last few games, he's gone on a run. That cannot be overstated in the importance of the chemistry of the team and the buy-in and the all-in. Guys like him, because this team could make a run. They should be able to reel off what would be like 5-6 game winning streak here, with wins over the Bengals, the Eagles, the Jets, the Giants, the Texans, the Raiders. These are all winnable games, folks. And frankly, you need to win that home game against Kansas City that's coming up as well down the road. That's how you go on a run. But the other key is handling prosperity. You see the headline, handling success has not been a team strength for this franchise for years. But this team's different. This, to me, is the best team they've had since Peyton Manning ran the show in 2015 and they won Super Bowl 50. That was a legendary defense. And before you start comparing this defense to that defense, just tap the brakes. Remember, as I've said on this pod, what made that 2015 defense special is they beat great quarterbacks, and they beat them anywhere. You Roethlisberger, Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers. I mean, you're beating the best of the best, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Broncos have not done that. Now, beating Jalen Hurts is a step in the right direction. And he's not playing well right now, but he's a Super Bowl MVP. And they were 20-1 in the last 21 games. So that's the kind of game where you're like, okay, this is the kind of game that can define a season. But how do you handle a success? It's being able to then file that game away and allow it to give you confidence, but not feel so good about yourself like you've done something. You're 3-2. Ultimately, no matter how big the Eagles game was, it was one win and you're 3-2. So how do you handle that? What are the keys to that? Well, coming over to London helps. And here's why. Sean Payton loves these type of trips. It's very similar to the Greenbrier last year, if you remember. They play in Tampa Bay, and then they go to West Virginia at the Greenbrier, the resort where Payton helped design the place, the practice fields, the locker room, all of it. He loves it. But it also creates a collegiate feel because all they have is each other. When you're in Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, there's nothing there, folks. There's a little town about 10 minutes away that has a main street of a handful of restaurants. That's it. So you have each other. And those trips can bring you together. Or if you're losing, it can make you hate life and want to chew your arm off and eat tinfoil. But they're winning, and they won in Tampa, and then they went to the Greenbrier. They won in New Philly, and then they come here to London, and they're staying in the middle of nowhere, folks. They're not anywhere near central London. He's made it very clear. They didn't talk about the L word leading up to this game on the week of the Eagles, and they have not said anything about, we're going to do a team sightseeing, we're going to do this. They're not. I mean, some of the players on Monday, their off day, and part of Tuesday had a chance to do stuff that they wanted. But this is not team organized. This is a business trip. And that's why I want you to hear from Mike McGlinchey. He's been on really good teams with the Niners. He's in his third year with the Broncos. He was one of the first free agents Sean Payton signed. I asked him, what is it about this group that makes you think you can handle this success? What is the key to that? Here's Mike McGlinchey after practice this week talking about that.
When you win a game like that, how does this team then handle prosperity? Is it by getting a hotel in the middle of nowhere and that this is a business trip? Or how do you handle prosperity and make sure that win resonates and means something?
Well, I think it's all about coaching and leadership. I think Coach Payton has made it very, very clear that we're here to win a football game and that we're only just scratching the surface of what we want to do.
Okay.
And I think it's on the players that have been here, that have been leaders for this, these last 3 years since we started this program, to remember why we're doing this, and it's to obtain, being a great team in this league and to win meaningful ball games. And it's only it was week 5. We got a lot of season left. There's a lot of ball left, and we got a lot of goals in front of us that we want to hit. So I don't anticipate any problems with that. And certainly we have an opportunity to take that next step forward for ourselves and assure ourselves a spot in the playoffs and do what we need to do to make that happen.
Last one, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Welcome back. Well, you can see, again, they're in a good place. The losing power stinks. Other than that, they're relatively healthy. They should get Malcolm Roach back this week, if I had to guess. Dre Greenlaw is not doing much, folks, just for those who think he's going to come right back after missing 7 games. I'm not sure about that. Just file that away. He's got some ground to cover. We haven't even seen Drew Sanders practice, for those who asked and reach out on social media, so I don't know where his thing is. It's unfortunate because he's such an athletic talent and marvel, but you got to be healthy, and he's not healthy, unfortunately. And I haven't seen him out even on the side field. Greenlaw was out on the side field doing some light work, but we're going to see. I don't know that he would be ready in a few weeks. I don't know that. He's going to have to ramp it up to be ready to play in week 8 for me, based on what I've seen. And they lose Powers, biceps, torn biceps. He played through it. If you go back and watch, if you're one of those football nerds and watch the All-22, and Parker Gabriel was watching it in the airport as we were getting ready to fly over here, and you can see that he heard it like on the first play of the last drive against the Eagles. He got kind of tweaked where it bent back. And then the next few plays he's playing, and he's just literally blocking with his shoulder. So he's just going like this, keeping his arm in. Says a lot about his toughness, how much he cares about his teammates. He had never missed a game since signing with the Broncos. But he had the surgery. I talked to a source close to Ben about it, and they're hopeful he can return late in the season. We'll see. We'll see. Sometimes it could happen. I would think playoffs are more realistic than the regular season. But they're going to miss him. But this is a team that's in a good place mentally. And this is a team under Peyton that has learned that you have to beat bad teams if you want to be a good team. So I'm not worried about London. Now, coming back to play the Giants after being on the road forever, that's a scary game in terms of a cover, not a win. But when you look at this game, I see absolutely no issue with them just thumping them. I think they're going to win like 27-10, 31-13. Probably 3 to 5 sacks, a couple turnovers from Justin Fields. This is the kind of game, if they make them one-dimensional, the Broncos should win, 31-10. It should be that kind of game. It should be fun. I hope you're all watching. It's a 7:30 a.m. start. I know it's on Denver 7, my old station. So I hope you're up early checking it out. I will have a pod, I would hope, that night that can run on Monday morning, summing it up. But it's been a fun trip. It's always great to see other, Broncos country, the way you guys all travel. I can't thank you enough for your support. It's because of your support I'm in a position like this to be in London talking about the Broncos. So, folks, I could not do this pod without Darby Hoggatt, my good friend from Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih and his Ted Shih's family law practice, and, of course, Nate Lundy and Danny Bailey of Mile High Sports. They make it all possible. Danny does all the stuff behind the board. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.